Hey guys, what's up? It's all things MTG here. Today I'm back with another deck tech. Today we'll be looking at black, white black improvise in Ether Revolt standard right now. So black uh black white improvise is a deck that I've been looking at. I've been really testing. It's like I've tried different colors, but black white has worked the best. So I'm gonna first start off with what improvise is. If you don't know, improvise is that when you can cast a spell, um, your artifacts can help you cast a spell, and you can tap each artifact for a converted mana cost one of anything. An example would be um, Barricade here. Improvise for one, so instead of tapping 7 lands, you can tap your artifacts. So the deck, what it wants to do is it wants to play cheap artifact spells in the early game, and those artifacts are gonna help you cast bigger spells. So let's start. I'm gonna start off with the spells that is pretty much gonna be working as our lands. In other words, our artifacts that will be tapping for mana to cast bigger spells. So I'm going to start off with 2 copies of Ornithopter. Ornithopter 0 mana, turn any time you can just cast Ornithopter, and the best part is improvise. You can do it. You can cast Ornithopter and then improvise and use Ornithopter because summoning sickness doesn't affect the improvise. We've got hope. This you don't normally sacrifice this, but you can, and it's also just a great one mana spell. It can also it flies as well, which is great. Um, and then we've got Consulate of the Dreadnought. You might be running Crucix. It's not that hard to actually get. You can see we've got the 2 Toolcraft Exemplars, which will 4 Toolcraft Exemplars, which will probably have a artifact on the field pretty much at any state of the game. So we can easily crew this. And it's an artifact for 1 mana, which is great. Heart of Kiran, the most expensive card in the deck. Here, this can help us win the game. We can crew free with Toolcraft Exemplar, or we can just do combined it with Thraben Inspectors, and it's also 2 mana artifact, which is also going to help us improvise. Implement of Improvement, once again, just a 1 mana spell helping us artifact helps improvise. And if we're at a position where we're looking for more spells, we can sack it. We can sack it and gain 2 and draw a card, because when it puts into the graveyard from the battlefield, you draw a card. And Improvising Statuary, another improvise maker, also makes non-artifact spells give improvise. So example, our main board wipe, which is so here you really don't want to cast this. If you would only board wipe with this card if you're at a really bad position where your opponents flood the board. Get that for 2 mana Stasis Snare. You can do that. So that's why we've got Inspiring Sanctuary there. And now I'm going to come in with our 1 mana spell, and also actually Thraben Inspector once again makes a clue. It's auto artifact, so it's 1 mana for a 1/2 with an artifact which can improvise for us. So that's Thraben Inspector is great in this deck. And Toolcraft Exemplar, once I said, we're probably going to have an artifact at any state of the game, so it's just a great card. A great 3/2 in combat, early game swings. You can turn 1 Toolcraft Exemplar, turn 2 Ornithopter, swing for 3, and Thraben Inspector just makes the deck feel fast. And now coming into our removal. 2 Fatal Push, very easy, self-explanatory. Stasis Snare, same here. Battle of the Bridge, another card that improvises for us, but we're only running 2 copies, and that gain life is actually really huge when you're up against really fast decks. That's good. You can actually I've seen turn one swamp into Ornithopter into battle and kill your opponent's Toolcraft Exemplar, for example. There, and then coming into our main ways to win, our main way to win the game. Barricade, right? Barricade Breaker right there. 7 mana, but improvise, which will help a lot. I've actually seen turn 4 or 5 barricades before, and when you're on turn 4 and 5, you play this card. It's just your opponent's just gonna be kind of screwed, as they're gonna be facing a 7/5. Um, and 4 Herald of Anguishes here. Once again, improvise. Once again, I've had this out turn 4 and 5 in testing, and it flies. Each end step, your opponent has to discard. Each opponent has to discard a card. You can pay one of anything and one black to sacrifice an artifact, which we'll probably have all the time, to target creature to -2/-2 something. Um, this right here is a bit expensive, but once again, you've got that improvise, which means you can get it out really easily. And whenever an non-token artifact you control is put into the graveyard, which is pretty much will happen, will trigger this as well. You get a 1/1 servo artifact creature token, which once again it's an artifact. So once again, it's creating cards for you to improvise. So what you're doing, you're just sacking things. You can sack this into a servo and to draw a card for 1 white, pretty much. And that's pretty much it for the main deck. Once again, Heart of Kiran, early game Heart of Kiran. Once again, this card I was talking about. When you do get this out, and you have let's say you turn 1, you have this out, and then you turn 4 or 5, you can actually cast this. You're swinging for 7. You're swinging with a 7/11, and that's actually really hard to get rid of, unless just easy removal spells. The bad part about this is Fatal Push can kill this, but we're only running 2 copies, and that's not really the main way we're gonna be winning. It's either we're swinging with Herald or we're swinging with Barricade himself. Sadly, he does have to attack each combat if able. So if you're gonna be crewing, you're gonna have to do that before combat, obviously. Heart of Kiran, once again, I'm just coming back to our main win conditions. Heart of Kiran will win us the game, but we'll be crewing it with Toolcraft Exemplar, and Toolcraft Exemplar can also just win the game right there. And then we're just gonna come into our lands now. 4 copies of Concealed Courtyard. Four copies of Inventors Fair. Even though it's a legendary land, it's very likely that we're gonna have 3 or more artifacts. So, and we can just sack it to search for an artifact card. We'll be most likely searching for Heart of Kiran, Consul, or Barricade. Like in other words, searching for our main ways to win with Inventors Fair, not actually using it for the life gain, for the mana. 4 copies of Shambling Vent. Once again, it's a white-black dual land. It's also, you can also animate it to a 2/3. Lifelink is also really huge. Shambling Vent can actually take down a lot of things. If your opponent's like playing Toolcraft Exemplar, if they come at you, you can animate and Shambling Vent and block and trade, which is fine. A copy of Westvale Abbey. 1 copy is in here because in testing, sometimes you can get 5 creatures, and Westvale Abbey sometimes just comes straight right in time to save the day for you. Once again, we've got 5 swamps, 5 plains. Once again, we've got that double black that we really need. That double black is so important. White, I see a lot of cards use white mana. Once again, there. Coming into sideboard, we've got Transgress the Mind against control decks. Obviously, control decks are huge in the format right now. Fumigate against not really fast decks, really big creature based decks that are trying to run us out of creatures. So what we can do, we can Ornithopter, blah blah blah. If they have flood the board, if you really have to, you can Fumigate, gain a bunch of life, and then restart and start over again. Because from that point on, because you're probably going to be faster than them because you've got the cheaper spells. Most people like 2 mana, 2 mana, 2 mana, but we're pretty much, most of our cards is just, most of our ways to improvise is just 1 mana, 1 mana, 1 mana. Consulate Crackdown against artifact decks, which are pretty big right now. Perfect against vehicles, vehicles and stuff. Authority of Consuls, aggro, Fatal Push against aggro, Harsh against aggro, and Stasis Snare against Durilium decks, which you do see sometimes, but not that much. Against like big creatures, what you want to do is just gonna go over and kill pretty much cards that our main board wipe can't kill. And I forgot to talk about this. The board wipe's second ability is pretty good actually. Surprising that you can play and cast something like a Stasis Snare. If you can't kill something, you know what I mean. And that's the deck itself. In testing, what you really want to do with this deck is you want to turn 1 play an untapped land into a, most likely if you can get an Ornithopter and a 1 mana spell, that actually puts you on 4 mana already, because the artifact's pretty much doing improvising. With turn 2, you want to play a tap land, repeat the progress, play 1 mana spell. Turn 3, that's 5 mana already. Turn 3, you're looking at Thraben Inspectors and more, and then turn 4, you now can cast Herald and Barricade. That's already 7 mana right there. You've already got it. You've got turn 4, 7 mana. You can start playing your big things, and you can even crew this and swing 7 at them if you do have this out. So that's pretty much what we're trying to do. Is we're pretty fast because we're just playing creature into a obviously into a artifact, which will improvise, barricade, turn 5. You can win on turn 6 if you're lucky with this deck. You can win on turn 6, and your opponent will be like, "Oh my god, you're so quick." And what you really don't want to be facing is obviously Saheeli combo and Saheeli combo control. Example would be if they're just, because what they're just gonna do is they're just gonna kill, actually kill, because a lot of people are running artifact removal in main board, because a lot of people are playing artifacts. So game 2 against a control deck, their deck's gonna get really better against us, because they're gonna board in like Consulate Crackdown right there, and yeah. And what we're gonna need is that Transgress to be really and we're just gonna need to be playing faster. If you see a green deck, for example, a slow green deck, then that's a perfect matchup for us, because we're pretty much just gonna be faster than them. Vehicles, we've got a lot of cards to defense. We can answer Heart of Kiran with Fatal Push, which is why Fatal Push is so good. And Revolt can be triggered pretty easily by sacking this, or sacking that if you have a target, that is. So that's the deck for you guys. White Black Improvise. I hope you enjoyed this deck tech, and this is all things MTG, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.